Well, we are back in the studio for another episode here of Coincast.
That's right. Unleashed.
Yeah,
this is the unleashed version.
This is the part where we take all the censors out, we unbleep everything. We get kicked off the internet. That's one way to do it.
We're certainly not politically correct. That's for sure.
No, but we want to be politically accurate, I guess might be the.
Well, we want to be accurate as best as we can,
but not correct. We aren't about that.
And I gotta always start off with saying, hey, don't believe a word we say. Just be open to hear what we have to say.
Right. And today, our theme was, cowboy and quarterback.
Yeah, it was kind of a unique thing.
I don't know what really happened there, but it works.
I like the color.
I had to throw on a jersey because I was wearing a tank top. So whoever left this jersey at my office, thank you. I don't own this. This is not mine. So
that looks like a pretty nice jersey, actually.
It's comfy. It's probably expensive.
Yeah. It looks
so come pick this up if you left it here. But no, we've got some interesting topics today. We're going to dive into the Ford Motor Company mandate on the vaccine now in the U.S. And we're going to jump in to see a little bit of what Florida's doing, because who doesn't love seeing and checking in on Florida? There's always some crazy stuff coming out of there, some good stuff too. And we're going to talk a little bit about Ron Desantis, some of his policies he's putting in place and how that affects some of these national mandates too. So we're going to dive into some articles. If you want to, kick off first, then we can dive into some of this stuff.
Well, like I say, we got this hat thing going here. Before it was the beanies, and now it's these two different style hats.
Yeah.
But in my case here, this was something unique. I don't normally wear a lot of hats typically, but today I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring this hat specifically because I bought this hat for a specific reason.
Yeah,
and it just reminds me of rural. I was raised on the farm and grew up in the rural areas, and it just reminds me a lot about the blood, sweat, and tears that went into this country. And this is kind of the hat that they donned at the time, and even now we can still be wearing ball caps. We can still wear all
I was going to say,
things.
in stark contrast to you, yours has a story.
Yes,
I just went online and said that's cool and bought this. No, it's a Machine Gun Kelly hat. It's supporting his new music.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Or not his new music, but one of his albums. So that's the only story I have behind mine is I bought it because I thought it looked cool. So,
hey,
and that's a good reason too, I guess, right? So,
and it's like a good contrast. You know what I mean? Back and forth. So
well, and it's generational too. It's some. I guess my generation probably like, oh, that's cool looking. Let's just do it. That's a majority of us. Yeah. But no, we've got the Ford Motor Company becomes the first U.S. automaker to mandate the vaccine for 30,000 plus workers. Let's read this article a little bit, and then we'll give some opinion.
Let's
good idea there.
Because Ford's got me rolling here. So
yeah, oh yeah. So here's the here's the headline: Ford to become the first U.S. automaker to mandate vaccines for 30,000 workers. Now, one thing I think is important too is that there is not their unionized workers yet. They're still working on that. You're going to see this a little bit in the article here, but they're trying. So let's read a little bit, and then we'll take some opinionated stuff here. So Ford Motor Company is set to become the first major U.S.-based car maker to require employees to be vaccinated. The company told staff in a message through the mandate, or though the mandate must still be negotiated with unionized workers, like we were saying. Company has announced the move in a note to its 32,000 or so salaried employees on Wednesday. Spokeswoman Monique Brentley confirmed to CNBC, telling them they must be vaccinated by December 8th or be placed on unpaid leave. The goal, and this is her quote, the goal is to achieve the highest possible vaccination rate without severe consequences to any employee. Brentley said, noting that the company will offer religious and medical exemptions to qualifying workers. You can see another quote here if you want to take a second to read that. But just on that point, just think about that. Your goal as a business is to provide the highest possible vaccination rate without severe consequence. Why is that a goal for your company? I think that's not a business decision.
No, I wouldn't say that would necessarily be a wise business decision either, but we'll get into that in just a little bit.
Yeah, but I think, just from that standpoint of, when you're a businessman, when you're an owner, when you're anyone that understands that side of things, you're obviously almost always, your number one goal is to make some sort of profit and help spread that awareness of your business, to help grow your business and be able to help. And for us, it's to be able to help, make more stuff like this, make more community oriented stuff, and become more of a community business. And
without actually dictating to their employees as to what they can and cannot do. That's where we've kind of run off the rails here. And in all fairness, it seems like, Ford wants to trend, I guess. So we're going to see how well this really trends in a little bit.
Right.
But absolutely. I mean, they're going against something that I don't think they really grasp. There's somebody in the marketing department that thinks this is really cool. Right. I don't know what your thoughts are on that part of it, or the executive side. I mean, these are the same executives that, fly corporate jets all over the place.
Right.
Because they're supposed to be, climate change and all these other issues, but yet these same guys. So, I'll let you wrap up a little bit more on what your thoughts are on that there, Caleb, but I'm definitely going to want to share some of my thoughts on this.
Well, I just think we see a lot of, it's become less of, hey, we're giving you this option to take the vaccine for your own safety or your own health. And it's becoming more of a, hey, we're going to price out unvaccinated people out of society, basically. You're either going to become unpaid, you're going on unpaid leave, and you're not going to be able to work or I was reading an article earlier today, I don't know, I didn't pull it up, but concerts. If you were unvaccinated and wanted to go to a certain concert at this venue, it was $18 for vaccinated people and $1,000 if you wanted to go unvaccinated. So you're literally being priced out of society, and it's disgusting. I mean, that's such a third world thing to do, from such a massive, entity as the U.S. and such a free country as the U.S. Right?
Well, especially when these employees, I mean, they worked through whatever they had to go through with the COVID situation before the vaccine. So there's a lot more to play, and it's, first of all, this mandate is not constitutional, first and foremost. So why a corporation thinks they need to get involved in something that's unconstitutional
and a health decision?
Exactly. And figure that, they're going to mandate their employees. My understanding is that they're going to mandate it. I think in the article it says December the 8th.
Yes.
And then there's like a 30-day grace period. And then where, you have to take leave, I guess, in that period while they work through the processes of, was it a medical issue or is it a religious issue? It shouldn't matter whether it's a medical or a religious issue. If an employee of Ford chooses not to take the vaccine, that's their right and choice.
Right.
So, so there's some deep things going on. So why is Ford all of a sudden deciding to jump into the fray here and say, hey, we are going to mandate something that, first of all, even the federal government can't do something that's constitutional. It's non-constitutional, right?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, we'll get into that Desantis thing, but I just want to get into really what's going on with what this really does. Me as a consumer, and I'm going to talk from my standpoint, for example, up until 2021, was a proud Ford owner, F-150, top-of-the-line interior Ford. And when I seen this post just recently, I got to rethinking, because I was looking at the Lightning. That truck looks real cool, right?
It's an interesting truck for sure.
And they seem to be getting the mileage out, and the team effort to putting that truck together. And I'm going, wait a second, these are Americans that are building this truck, right? And here, Ford executive, and obviously some wizards in the marketing department, like I say again, think this is going to trend really well. Well, I think you might just, because I'll be frank, with this article, unless they're going to do something and retract what they're intending to do, because obviously this is a very fast-moving cart, and it seems to be shifting back and forth with the changes in dates. I personally look at this as Ford crossed the line, and it's not just Ford. Right. My understanding is there's some other companies out there. So this is for all of the ones that are thinking this is the route to go. But this in specific case is Ford specific, because, like I say, I am a consumer. I was a proud consumer of Ford up until 2021.
Right.
November. I'm rethinking it. As far as I'm concerned, Ford crossed the line here. In mandating. And I support all of the workers that choose not, for whatever reason it is, not to take the vaccine. I mean, this is a free country, at least it's supposed to be. And if you choose to take the vaccine, by all means, go ahead and do it. That's your choice. If you've done the research and everything else and you feel that that's the way to go, then by all means. But for the ones that say, no, I've also done the research and I go, nah, I don't think this is for me. And there could be many different reasons for choosing not to take the vaccine as information starts, coming out. But personally, I take this as Ford pissed on my boot.
Yeah.
They really pissed. And you know what? I believe that there's other Ford owners out there that also feel when they hear this information of what Ford's doing and what they're doing to fellow Americans, as far as I'm concerned. And not just America. I understand this is like a global company, right? So I'm sure that's not just here. But, you have to really consider what this impact will do. And consumers have the option now, just like I have the option now. I can go, well, do I really want to invest my hard-earned money in a company that's mandating things that's, first of all, not constitutional, right? So do I really want to invest in another vehicle of that nature? Or do I might want to consider another company out there that maybe is thinking things a little bit differently, and they're thinking of their people, yes, but they're also thinking of what's the constitutional way of moving forward through all this mess that we currently find ourselves in. And I believe that there's a lot of people that drive Fords for their work, their recreation, hey, maybe even show up to a NASCAR race, right? Isn't that cool, Ford? Maybe shows up to a NASCAR race. So far as I'm concerned at this stage, Ford, you know what? Ford, you can go. Let's go, Brandon.
Well, and I wrote down a few things here because there's a few points too you want to think about from a company standpoint. Think of the medical precedent this is setting, from a privatized business standpoint. If you're going to allow private business to come in and mandate vaccines, what stops them from mandating other vaccines? What stops them from mandating any medical procedure that you would like to think of for any reason? What if you had to go apply for a new job today and they said, well, have you been vaccinated for yellow fever? You're like, well, why does that matter? What does that have to do with anything? But also the biggest part, and this is me from a capitalistic, business owner perspective, Ford is a private company, right? Kind of, but the problem is these government bailouts. This company has been bailed out by the government before. So how much of that matters that they're a private business? Because you'll hear from the other side, well, if you're for private businesses, they have their own rules, they have their own, why can't they make up these mandates? And you're right, they can do that. That's completely within their will. But what I have an issue with is companies that are receiving government-based bailouts making mandates for this stuff. So is it really a private business as much as it is almost a government-sponsored business? Well,
that's a good question. But at the end of the day, though, it still rolls back, right? Who all of a sudden now, any company that's looking at mandating this to their employees, right, now all of a sudden they're stepping into a policing position.
Yep.
The federal government, right, they're doing all sorts of cool smoke and mirrors, and that's where people really have to really wake up, and that's what is happening. We're seeing that in the medical end. We are seeing that in all our emergency services and so on. We are seeing it in schools and so on, and people are starting to stand up, and that's what has to happen. People have to wake up that they do carry a lot of power. And just like I say, when it comes to as a consumer, I can choose where I choose to invest my money.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something. Hey, unless Ford is going to do something differently here, I will not be buying a Ford product. I know you're in the midst of looking at Ford vehicle.
I've been looking at Hondas. So.
Okay. Well, and who knows? Maybe Honda at some point may decide to do something in this nature. But the bottom line is that's where we as consumers have to stand up and say enough is enough.
Yep. And that's, I think, the important part with that private side too, is the market will, and that's the beauty of, I think, capitalism. Obviously, whatever, you can think what you want about it, but the beauty of capitalism is the market will decide. It's sure you can do this, sure you can do that. Is it a smart move? Probably not. They're
going to find out,
right? And you've heard the term "get woke, go broke." It's happened with a few companies. Dove, that was a primary example where they tried to use more ethnic based stuff for products that were made for a lighter skin tone, basically. And everyone's like, well, that doesn't make much sense. Why are you trying to shove diversity down my throat in a case that, we all know diversity is important, whatever. And so obviously with Dove, with Ford going this route now, these companies are going to learn. And again, yeah, marketing might think it's cool. Whoever HR might think it's interesting. But at the end of the day, when those profits start dropping, when stock prices are falling, when whatever goes down, they're going to make some changes. They might try not to, but it'll be in the shadows. They're going to do what keeps them in business.
Well, and here's the thing though, right, is once you cross the Rubicon here, right, you can do all your fancy trending and all your fancy marketing and all that cool stuff. But guess what? Once this is linked, once we get through this BS that we're going through now, is not only as a country, but this is a global problem. This is a global problem, and people are waking up all around the world to this, right? So you attach your company name. I would imagine Henry Ford is probably rolling around right now going, what's going on? But anyways, once you attach your name to this type of a scenario where it is against, it's unconstitutional, and now you think you're going to be like policing this whole process, then I don't think there's much trending you can do other than you're going to trend yourself right into the grave. And there isn't going to be any reason to carry on with your product any longer. So, that's where the power of the people is. And I think what we're seeing now, justice is going to come. We're getting through this because we're seeing where all the darkness it lies and what's behind, what's in the closets. And as all of these closets starts opening up and the light starts being shone in, then action's going to have to be taken. And I know this has been a long drawn process for many, because many have been awake for quite some time about what atrocities are going on this planet and also in this country. But there's a reason why, right? This is the first world.
Yep.
Right. So, the patriots in this country are standing up. They're slowly but surely standing up, but we have to unite. And I think, like I say, this just backs us up with, we'll roll right into Governor Desantis really of what he thinks about this whole process. And I have totally agree with him on this one.
Yeah, and this is, we're going to show you a little clip of Ron DeSantis responding to the new OSHA rules, the Biden.
And we'll put the
that'll
links.
be down here. I've got it here. And but basically, it's a lot of what we're talking about already, what we just kind of made a point on. But he elaborates a little bit on it, and he obviously comes from a position of power. So we'll let you guys watch this for about a minute, and then we'll cut back to us and give you our opinion.
A government of a bureaucracy, a government that is being run by executive edict, not in accordance with the typical constitutional processes. And the state of Florida is going to respond, and we will combat the OSHA rule. As soon as it's published, the state of Florida will be joining with Georgia and Alabama, as well as private plaintiffs, to file suit. This is a rule that is not consistent with the Constitution and is not legally authorized through congressional statutes. There is no federal police power. The federal government can't just unilaterally impose medical policy under the guise of workplace regulation, and that is exactly what they're trying to do here. They don't provide any instances why the workplace is somehow different than anything else that's been done with any of this. This is an attempt to shoehorn policy through the bureaucracy in a way that will be difficult for some of these individuals and private parties to resist. I think it's...
Yeah. So again, it's not very constitutional, or not at all, really. Not very.
It isn't. It isn't. It just isn't. It's like black and white. There's just no standing on this specific item, especially. So that's why I'm saying is, companies that decide to go down this path, you're preparing for your own annihilation.
Well, and I think,
especially with the patriots around the globe, right, that make the decision on how they are going to invest money, and that's how we fight back in a non-confrontational act.
There's power in where you put your assets.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think a big thing to stress too. We're going to dive into a little bit of a story here with the Florida governor and his fines on these vaccine mandates from companies. But the one thing I did want to kind of base this argument on is how we kind of have built our country out, right? So it's not federal government, state, local, as most people think it is. It's local, state, federal. So
it's the people.
And obviously, yes, your local officials, you're voting on those people in your area. You're voting on your state senators, representatives, and then you're also voting on, obviously, your federal level, whatever. But most people tend to think, well, federal law overrides everything, then state, especially my generation for sure hasn't.
I get you. Yeah,
we haven't been taught too much of that. We just think, oh, well, he's the president, he does what he wants or whatever. It's not that way, guys. It's your local officials matter a lot because, again, like we've seen here in Cambridge locally, when all these mandates were coming out and people were reporting people to the police for not wearing a mask in Walmart. Our local city police came out and actually said, do not call us about a vaccine, about a mask wearing scenario. We will not respond to it. So even then, that makes you feel a little bit good living here, thinking, man, those people we put in up here are going to protect us even over those federal mandates. Yes. And then you got obviously your state level. So this is where Ron DeSantis comes in, being, the governor of Florida. He is basically saying any company, and you'll see it in this article here, here's the headline: Florida governor threatens $5,000 fine per violation for any government agency mandating COVID-19 jabs. He's basically saying, yeah, federal government, you can do that, but guess what? Our state powers override your federal powers, and here's what we're going to do to prevent you from doing that, or at least make it more difficult for you to enforce these rules into our great state of Florida here, right? So,
it's going to create a conversation. Like, Governor DeSantis is really, being the finger in the dike here right now, in the standpoint of being able to bring this forward, so people can now, look at it, review it, and try to make sense of it. And then from there, realize, wait a second, just like these parents that are going to these schools, I mean, they're getting, especially with a lot of these mandates in these schools, as with the vaccines, obviously, there's power in the people. So they're making noises and they're making change in some areas, right? Not all, but that's how it all starts. And the same thing is what's happening here with concerning these businesses. So what Governor DeSantis is doing here right now is giving people an opportunity to really look at what is really going on here and investigate, and then stand. And this is where the Patriots come in. Your voice is very powerful. Right. You need to take and utilize that voice.
Yeah, and we'll read a little bit here, and then we'll give you some of our thoughts, and we'll wrap this thing up afterwards. The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, has threatened any government agency mandating a COVID jab as a condition of employment with fines, and said ignoring natural immunity suggests vaccine mandates are more about control and not public health. Very good point. And he's quoted here saying, "We are not going to let people be fired because of a vaccine mandate," DeSantis told the crowd in Gainesville on Monday. If a government agency in the state of Florida forces a vaccine as a condition of employment, that violates Florida law, and you'll be faced $5,000 fine for every single violation. Then you can keep scrolling here and read a little more. Florida has worked hard to make COVID-19 vaccines available for all, but mandatory for none. And that's a good quote there. Yeah. And he said it's fundamentally wrong to throw away first responders and other frontline workers that had been hailed as heroes until recently, right? Speaking after a firefighter who recovered from the virus, DeSantis pointed out that the vaccine mandates make no provision for natural immunity conferred by the infection. It's not about science. I don't support the mandates at all, but if you're doing mandates based on this stuff, if you're really following the science, you'd acknowledge this natural immunity, and instead they ignore it. And then you can see some more stuff here. We won't read the full thing. If you want to read this article, it'll be down in the description.
Yeah, the links will be down below.
But that's huge. And that's kind of what I've always kind of thought through the entire pandemic. When Trump was still president, and he was saying, we've got these vaccines coming. Great. He wasn't saying we're going to force you to take them. He was just saying we're going to make it available. Do what you want with it. I believe he even got it, before he was out of office. But what we're seeing now is mandates. And like DeSantis is saying, you can't make a health choice anymore in this country without being told how to do it.
Well, especially when, and again, what was prior to happening, if we go back, and that's the cool thing about digital, is you can go back in time and just hear what the conversations were going between the two parties and the two, Biden now, of course, and Trump previously, and Harris, and both of them came out and said, hey, we needed to have transparency concerning all these vaccines, and who's going to be the first one to take the shot was one of the famous things that and I won't say anything more, but who said that, because everybody can figure out who said that one. But the whole point is this: we are losing our constitutional rights, and unless you stand up now using your voice, they will be gone forever. So
it's about control. It's not about your health.
And as a local level, and I'm glad that you mentioned the Cambridge Police. I mean, that was one of the things that I appreciated, was the fact that, they looked at what is the legal move here, right? Not what is being edict to them, right? It's being what's the legal process of moving forward with all these different things that, up is down and down is up. So that's very powerful. And like I say, that's what makes the community stronger. I mean, because we're also backing our police.
Right. And that's the tough part too, is, these massive cities, and this is a topic for a completely other day, but I will bring it up because we'll probably talk about it someday.
We'll get into it at some point.
Is these large cities police departments.
Yeah.
But then you have, it's the same thing. You see both sides of the story. There's the police that are actively coming in and enforcing these mandates and forcing businesses closed, and it's disgusting, and it's sad to see. But then it's not all of them. You've got your smaller towns, your local community, and they get it. And that's again why we vote on the issues. That's why these large cities are blue. So they're going to probably tend to be a more blue police force. But I think it's important that we touch on that subject at some point, probably not today, but just something to think about too is, I've heard both sides of the spectrum. Hey, I don't like the cops because they do this, or I don't like the cops because they do this. Well, I love them because they do this. It's not a political issue, but these are still people with political views. Well,
you mentioned something about political views. Political, whichever way you want to look at it, it boils down to an ideology, right? And that ideology is either freedom or control. That's what it boils down to here. And that's where, we see patriots in these, in the EMS, in a lot of these businesses that are standing up, whether it's a restaurant or it's a small business that employs 50 or 100 people, manufacturing, agriculture, any of those different elements where they're prepared to make a stand, and they're doing that. And here we've got these large corporations that are all of a sudden now thinking they're going to trend real cool. Hey, that's what makes unique. And we're seeing too now is that we're seeing, look at the exodus of police, fire, emergency, whether it's hospital, nursing, doctors and everything. Why are they coming under fire so much? Why would they, after going through better than a year and a half of operating under these conditions, now they're being mandated to take a vaccine? There's something wrong here. There's just no way that you can look at this and say, oh no, this is just normal. Well, unless maybe you're asleep, then that's a possibility. But more and more people are waking up to there's a lot more going on. And that's what I look forward to, Caleb, being able to get into more detail with this. So that being said, hey, Ford.
You can get out of here. Probably break something in the background. But no.
I just got to be able to make sure I can still go home.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll find you a ride. Okay. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this. Again, the best thing you can do to help us out is share this. Yeah. Not just... a like on YouTube's great. We love that. But share this out. Share it to your newsfeed. Share it to your friends. Text it to them. Say, hey, these guys made some good points. Hey, these guys are idiots. Whatever you want to say about us, we don't care.
It's supposed to be a free country.
Right. Yeah. And we completely support your freedom of speech. So, again, thanks for watching.
Please support ours as well.
Yes, exactly. We'll give and take with you. So, again, if you hated it, come back. We'll give and take with you. We'll hear your side. You can hear our side. We can be friends still. How about that? So thank you. We'll see you guys next week here on Podcast.